Welcome to District Command Central, your go-to source for the latest news and updates on the Washington Commanders. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a play. The Washington Commanders are waking up to a reality that fans were hoping they wouldn't have to face this early in the season. Jayden Daniels, the rookie quarterback who has electrified the franchise since the moment he stepped onto the field, is now dealing with a knee injury that has thrown the entire fan base into a state of unease. It happened in the loss to the Green Bay Packers, a game that was already frustrating enough on the scoreboard, but became infinitely more concerning when Daniels went down clutching his leg. The sight was jarring. Silence fell in the stadium as the young star was tended to, and although he managed to walk off, everyone watching knew the Commanders' season could look completely different depending on what those medical scans revealed. Dan Quinn, the new head coach of Washington, knew he'd be peppered with questions the moment he sat in front of the microphones for his post-game media availability. In his typical straightforward but guarded fashion, Quinn did not offer definitive answers, but he did try to inject calm into the room. The early reports had indicated that Daniels avoided something catastrophic. An MRI showed a sprained knee, not a torn ligament, not something that would shut him down for months, but still enough to put his status for Week 3 against the Las Vegas Raiders in serious doubt. The relief that it wasn't a season-ending injury was real, but it quickly gave way to anxiety about how soon Daniels could realistically return and what kind of quarterback he'd be when he did. For fans who have been starved for excitement at the quarterback position for years, Daniels' arrival has felt like a rebirth. Drafted second overall in the 2024 NFL Draft, he came in with all the expectations in the world and immediately justified the hype with his dual-threat ability, his calm in the pocket, and his flair for the spectacular. The offense looks different with him on the field. It has rhythm, danger, and creativity. Daniels makes everything click, and without him, Cliff Kingsbury's offensive playbook shrinks considerably. Sure, Marcus Mariota is a veteran with plenty of starting experience, and he can steady the ship, but there's no comparison between what the Commanders can do with Daniels and what they'd be forced to do with Mariota. That's why this uncertainty is so critical. It isn't just about who takes the snaps. It's about whether the identity of this offense survives intact. The timing of the injury couldn't be worse. The Commanders are set to face the Las Vegas Raiders, a team that features one of the most disruptive defensive players in football in Max Crosby. Crosby is relentless, a four-time Pro Bowl edge rusher who can wreck a game plan on his own. For a rookie quarterback still finding his rhythm in the league, this matchup was already going to be a test. Now, with Daniels potentially limited or sidelined, Washington has to prepare for a scenario where Mariota has to navigate that pass rush. That's a very different proposition, and one that will force Kingsbury and Quinn to recalibrate everything from protections to tempo to how aggressive they want to be with downfield shots. Quinn was asked repeatedly about Daniels' status, and every time, he circled back to the same line, day-to-day. It's a phrase that doesn't satisfy fans, but it's also the truth of the situation. The Commanders will know more as the week progresses, especially once Wednesday's practice reports start coming in. That's when Daniels will be asked to test the knee, to plant, to pivot, to roll out, and to demonstrate that his mobility hasn't been compromised. This isn't about whether he can stand in the pocket and throw. Everyone knows he can do that. This is about whether the traits that make Daniels special, the quick cuts, the scrambling ability, the threat to take off and run, are still available to him. If they're not, Washington has to weigh whether trotting him out there at less than full strength is worth the risk. Quinn made it very clear that the Commanders are not going to gamble with Daniels' long-term future. He's too valuable, not just for this season, but for the next decade of football in the nation's capital. No stone will be left unturned, and Daniels will not see the field unless the medical staff and coaching staff are 100% confident that there are no long-term ramifications. That means testing his play strength, his mobility, and his change of direction throughout the week. Daniels is a competitor. He'll push to play. But Quinn emphasized that the decision won't be made based on Daniels' desire. It will be made based on what the doctors see, what the coaches see, and whether he looks like himself in practice. This kind of situation highlights the brutal reality of the NFL's schedule, too. Thursday Night Football, while a ratings giant for the league, is notorious among players and coaches for putting bodies at risk. Short weeks increase the likelihood of injuries, and early season games are often where rosters take some of their heaviest hits. The Commanders learned that lesson the hard way. The injury to Daniels wasn't the product of reckless play, but it was a reminder that one awkward step can flip the narrative of an entire season. Quinn has to balance the urgency of winning in the present with the patience to protect the future, and that's never an easy line to walk. For Daniels himself, this is a test of patience. He is wired to compete, to push through pain, to prove himself. Every rookie feels the weight of showing the league who they are, and Daniels has already begun carving out his reputation. Sitting out, even for a single week, will gnaw at him. But the Commanders' responsibility is bigger than one game. It's about the investment they've made in him, about the franchise quarterback they've been searching for since the glory days of the early 90s, and about ensuring that this setback doesn't snowball into something that lingers all season. The ripple effect of Daniels' injury goes beyond just who lines up at quarterback. It changes how the offensive line prepares, how the receivers anticipate routes, and how the defense approaches its role. When Daniels is on the field, there's always the possibility of a quick strike, a broken play turning into a highlight reel touchdown, or a designed run that keeps drives alive. Without that, everything tightens. Defenses can sit back, take fewer risks, and dare Washington to beat them methodically. That's a tougher ask for a team still finding its identity under a new coaching staff. It's important to note, though, that the Commanders are not panicking. Quinn's demeanor, calm but firm, sets the tone. This is a team that knows adversity is part of the process, and it's why they built the roster with depth and experience. Mariota may not be Daniels, but he's no stranger to NFL defenses. He has started playoff games. He has executed game plans. And if he has to step in, the Commanders will trust him to manage the offense and keep the team afloat. That doesn't mean the expectations vanish. Washington has goals, and one player's absence, no matter how important, doesn't erase them. It just changes the path they'll have to take. As the week unfolds, every practice report, every update from Quinn, and every sighting of Daniels on the practice field will be dissected by fans and media alike. This is the nature of the NFL. Quarterback stories dominate, and when it's a promising rookie with the weight of a franchise on his shoulders, the microscope intensifies. For now, all anyone can do is wait. Daniels is day-to-day, and that phrase carries with it both hope and uncertainty. Hope, because it means the injury isn't devastating. Uncertainty, because no one can say for sure whether he'll be out there on Sunday against the Raiders. What's clear is that the Commanders understand the stakes. Daniels is not just another player. He is the centerpiece of their rebuild, the reason fans believe again, and the key to unlocking the potential of this roster. Protecting him, even if it means sacrificing in the short term, is the right move. Quinn knows it. Kingsbury knows it. The fans know it. Even if their hearts are telling them they want to see number 5 under center as soon as possible. This is a moment of patience, of trust, and of calculated decision-making. The next few days will tell the story, and whichever way it breaks, it will shape the trajectory of Washington's season. If you're enjoying the coverage, make sure to smash that like button and drop a comment with your thoughts on the Commanders' latest moves. We want to hear from you. The rumor mill is running at full speed, and if the latest whispers circulating around the NFL corridors are anything to go by, the world of professional football is in chaos. Sources say that Adam Peters, a figure not often seen in public debates but known for his uncompromising style behind the scenes, has reportedly stepped up and demanded answers from the Philadelphia Eagles ownership after a series of events that insiders are calling unprecedented and inexplicable. The drama seems to have reached its peak this week, when Peters allegedly confronted the upper echelons of the organization, seeking clarity on decisions that have left fans and insiders alike scratching their heads. According to whispers from those close to the situation, Peters didn't mince words. He reportedly asked pointed questions about the direction of the team, the handling of key personnel, and, most notably, the abrupt handling of head coach Dan Quinn's tenure. Those present during these tense discussions say Peters' inquiries were relentless, almost surgical in their precision, demanding a transparency rarely seen in such high-stakes environments. The atmosphere, insiders claim, was thick with tension. It wasn't just a casual conversation or a polite request for an update. Sources suggest that Peters' tone carried the weight of frustration that had been building over weeks of confusion, rumors, and questionable decision-making. What makes this even more explosive is the apparent reaction from Josh Harris, the team's owner, whose reported response has sent shockwaves across the fan base. According to multiple insiders, Harris was not only unamused by Peters' inquiries, but also took the extraordinary step of decisively cutting through the speculation with what many are describing as an almost theatrical bluntness. No explanation, Dan Quinn is out. Harris reportedly stated, a declaration that, if true, has already reshaped the narrative surrounding the Eagles' leadership. Imagine the room at that moment. Whispers frozen midair, executives exchanging glances, and Peters, who moments before had been relentless in his pursuit of answers, now facing a reality that seemed both abrupt and final. People familiar with Harris's style say that while he is known for making tough, sometimes unpopular decisions, the speed and decisiveness with which this move was allegedly executed has left even seasoned NFL insiders stunned. It's the kind of announcement that doesn't just ripple through an organization, it sends tremors across the league. The timing of this rumored shakeup couldn't be more dramatic. Dan Quinn, a coach whose reputation had been both praised and questioned, seemingly had the weight of the team on his shoulders for seasons, and now, according to insiders, is being shown the door without the usual fanfare. Sources close to the team suggest that there had been signs of internal unrest, hints of disagreement over strategies, personnel management, and the long-term vision for the franchise. But what's catching everyone off guard is the speed and decisiveness with which the owner, Josh Harris, allegedly acted. Where typically the NFL is known for drawn-out negotiations, internal reviews, and sometimes even weeks of public speculation, this move is being characterized as a microwave decision, done swiftly, without leaving room for debate or the kind of narrative building that usually accompanies coaching transitions. And if the rumors circulating are accurate, Peters' insistence on answers was the catalyst. It seems he forced Harris into a corner where action was no longer avoidable, transforming internal frustration into headline-grabbing drama. There's also a layer of intrigue about what happens next. With Quinn out, according to sources, the Eagles are now reportedly facing a whirlwind of uncertainty regarding leadership, team morale, and the strategy for the next season. Insiders are speculating about who could possibly step into such a high-pressure role, and the list, according to the rumor mill, is already buzzing with names. Some say the organization might look for a bold, transformative figure, someone capable of not just coaching the team, but also navigating the turbulent waters of ownership dynamics, player expectations, and the intense scrutiny of a fan base that never sleeps on social media. Others hint that internal candidates, perhaps coordinators or assistant coaches, could suddenly find themselves in the spotlight, expected to stabilize a ship that insiders suggest has been rocking more than the public has been led to believe. The real story, however, seems to lie not just in who replaces Quinn, but in the ripple effects that Peters' confrontation with Harris may have caused behind the scenes. The suggestion is that Peters' insistence on transparency might be a new signal to the entire league. Accountability isn't optional anymore, and owners, coaches, and executives alike are being watched more closely than ever. Fans, naturally, are taking this news, or rumor, depending on who you ask, with a mix of shock, curiosity, and a healthy dose of speculation. Social media, as always, has exploded. Memes, hot takes, and endless threads are multiplying by the second, each user trying to decode what this all really means. Some are applauding Peters for having the courage to confront ownership, while others are questioning whether this sudden decisiveness from Harris was necessary or merely a reactionary move. The narrative, insiders say, is still very much in flux. Even those close to the team admit that details are still emerging, that the full story behind Quinn's departure may be far more complex than any public statement could ever capture. And that, for many, is where the real excitement lies. In the NFL, the public sees the games, the scores, and the highlights, but it's the drama behind closed doors, the high-stakes chess between owners, coaches, and executives, that fuels a league as storied and intense as this one. Peters' demand for answers and Harris's decisive response are the latest episode in a saga that insiders insist is far from over. If these rumors hold any truth, we may be witnessing a turning point not just for the Eagles, but for how teams manage internal disputes, ownership interventions, and leadership accountability. The idea that a coach can be removed almost instantaneously following an internal confrontation is, according to those in the know, a precedent that could reshape expectations across the league. Other organizations are reportedly watching closely, analyzing how Harris handled the situation, and speculating on whether a similar, no explanation, immediate decision approach could become a new model or a cautionary tale. And while we may never know every detail, the sheer intensity of the speculation is enough to keep fans, analysts, and insiders talking nonstop. People familiar with Peter's methods suggest that he is unlikely to stop here. If anything, this is just the opening act in a larger narrative about control, transparency, and influence in professional football. His confrontation with Harris may be the spark, but insiders hint that the fire could burn through other areas of the team, potentially triggering further moves that could shake the league's balance in ways few anticipate. Even more tantalizing are the whispers about how the players themselves are reacting, or at least the ones close enough to the inner circle to have a pulse on the situation. Some suggest that morale is at a crossroads, with veterans questioning the stability of the team while younger players speculate on opportunities that may suddenly arise from Quinn's rumored exit. Locker room dynamics, usually hidden from public scrutiny, are apparently shifting, and sources say that even minor decisions on game strategies or personnel deployment could be influenced by this sudden shakeup. The fascinating part, insiders insist, is that Peter's demands may have exposed a fault line that had been quietly forming for months. If Harris's decisive action is a response to pressure rather than long-term strategy, the next few weeks could be a roller coaster, both for the organization and for the fans who follow every tweet, post, and rumor. As the story continues to develop, one thing is clear. The combination of Peter's relentless pursuit of answers and Harris's dramatic response is the kind of behind-the-scenes drama that fuels the NFL rumor mill more than any game outcome ever could. Whether or not Dan Quinn's exit is formally confirmed, whether a successor is announced tomorrow or in the coming weeks, and whether Peter's actions are later framed as heroic or reckless, the impact of this alleged confrontation is already being felt across the league. Insiders, fans, and media outlets alike are leaning in, eager to piece together a puzzle that changes by the hour. This isn't just a story about a coach leaving a team. It's a story about influence, accountability, and the high-stakes tension that defines professional sports at the highest level. And in a league where every decision can make headlines, Peter's demand for explanations and Harris's blunt response may well be remembered as one of the most dramatic behind-the-scenes moments of recent NFL history. Thanks for tuning into District Command Central. Make sure to subscribe and follow us for all the Commanders news you need. Until next time, keep the faith and hail to the Commanders.